So today we're going to talk about grief in retirement and how it can seem as you age, everybody around you is just dropping like flies. And how do you maintain a positive attitude while that's going on? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue. Now, one of the things that we really haven't talked about a lot on this channel is dealing with grief in retirement. If you are a married person, you have a spouse or a partner or whatever, as you go through retirement, odds are at some point you're going to lose that person or they're going to lose you. As we age, we naturally lose our siblings, lose our parents, lose our friends, sometimes lose our children. Those things happen in retirement, and once you reach 50 and definitely once you reach 60 plus, it really escalates. And I have talked to several people here lately who just allow that escalation of death, basically, to really get them down. And so I wanted to talk about how to try and maintain your perspective. First of all, as you age, that's the normal state of life. Everybody has a time limit. We just don't know what it is most of the time. And yes, as you age, especially if you age really well, if you pull a Betty White and live to 99 or 100, probably most of the people that you know right now will have already died. That's just how life is. Life expectancy is just an average, and sometimes it feels like death is everywhere. Truthfully, it's not. But it can still weigh heavy on you, especially if the person who passes is a spouse. And let's talk about grief for a second. I know a lot of you have heard the 5 stages of grief, and there's some truth to those 5 stages. However, what people don't understand is every grief is different. So even if the person that you're speaking to has also lost a spouse, it's not the same. They didn't have the same relationship as you did with your spouse. They didn't have the same relationship with their parent as you did with your parent. Every relationship is different. That means every grief is different. And if you don't believe me, talk to someone who has been married several times and lost more than one spouse. They will tell you every grief is different. You grieve differently because the relationship is different. You're different. They're different. So there's no such thing as I understand. While they may be able to relate on some level, it's not the same. So when you are going through grief or you know someone who is going through grief, a lot of times the best thing to say is, I have no idea how you feel, but I am here for you. Because you don't. You really don't. Grief is one of those things that's very personal. It's different for everyone. And let's just talk about these 5 stages of grief. And those 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I think sometimes people have this perception that you just move through those stages and then when that last one's done, you're good. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. You may or may not go through all those stages. You may go through 1 or 2 or 3. You may not go through them in order. You may go through all 5 of them and think, I am so good, it's awesome. And then the next thing you know, you're right back into bargaining or denial again. And you're like, what is this about? Grief is not a linear process. It's one of those things that you do this 2 steps forward and 1 step back for seemingly forever. And then, like out of nowhere, it'll come back and get you. Let me give you a few examples of that. After my last husband died, I actually moved through that process, I thought, relatively well. That was my perception of it. And everything's going along fine. And this is like 2 years later. This was not like when it happened. This was like 2 years later. I was in a hurry. I had a whole list of things to do. Had to run by the store. Had to run by the mailbox. I had to go pay this. I had to do this. Had to pick stuff up. It was just a crazy day, right? So I run by the store. I do my errands. I get home and I'm unpacking my groceries. I had bought all this stuff that only he would eat. I didn't even realize I did it. And that is what happens a lot of times. That is when grief jumps up and bites you. I tell people it's like you finally get to the point where you're just walking through the field and everything is great and bam! You trip over a headstone. That is exactly what it's like. But when you're in retirement, especially when you're alone, when you become alone or you're already alone and you're experiencing grief, seeking out that support system of other widows, widowers, people who have experienced grief is vital. Absolutely vital to keep you positive, to keep you focused, to talk through the issues that you're having. While they might not understand exactly what you're feeling, they're going to understand pretty close. They're going to be able to help you. They're going to be able for you to realize everything you experience is normal. And you're going to experience more grief. So the more prepared you can be, and the better you can navigate that process, the better your retirement will go. There will be grief in your retirement, and you need to prepare for it. And when I'm talking about prepare for it, I mean mentally, emotionally. Yes, of course, you should prepare for it physically as well. Be sure everything is in place. Be sure your wills are in place. Be sure your powers of attorney and all of the end-of-life needs are in place. It's still amazing how many people do not do all of that. But mostly, you need to prepare emotionally. You need to understand and give yourself some grace. You're not going to go through grief perfectly. None of us do. Even if you go through one grief and it's relatively calm and restful, you may go through another where you're just crushed and you cry for weeks. It happens. So think about that now. Think about how you're going to navigate that. It is very easy to become extremely negative when all these things are going on around you. When you have friends passing away, getting cancer, being sick, all those things can really, really affect your retirement in a negative way. So that's why I think it's really important to understand it's coming, it'll happen, and you can navigate it well if you prepare for it as much as you can. You can't prepare for everything, but if you do, you will get through that grief process and be able to live a good life again. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please click subscribe. And I'll see you next time.